We have been having very important conversations here on the SABC. One of the most important conversations indeed, seeing that, South Africa is plagued with the gender-based violence issue. And a lot of times when we speak about gender-based violence, we do focus a lot on physical violence. We do focus a lot on, psychological and maybe even emotional violence. And all of these are encompassing. These are very important to look at. And of course, they cause a huge crisis and many deaths of women in particular here in South Africa. However, there is a form of abuse, one that can't be seen with the naked eye, usually happens silently within the spectrum of a household, and more so is even harder to prove. We're talking about financial abuse this morning on The Move, and this insidious kind of manipulation can take so many forms, from controlling bank accounts to coercive debt and economic exploitation. We're unpacking this form of abuse this morning with Dr. Shahieda Jansen, who is a clinical psychologist. Dr. Jansen, thank you so much for your time and helping us unpack this very critical and important conversation.
Good morning, and good morning to your listenership, and thank you so much for inviting me. Yes, it is indeed a very important topic because, it is very seldom spoken of. Because even according to the Domestic Violence Act, it recognizes economic abuse as very much a separate form of abuse, defining it as deprivation of economic or financial resources to which an abused is legally entitled. But it also says that often the court wrongly address only the physical elements of the assault, in terms of the domestic violence. And so it will deal with the physical assault, but then often it is silent, it doesn't seem to respond to perhaps, and I like what you said earlier, it's maybe actually the foundational abuse that actually makes even all the other abuses possible. I think you said something to that effect. So that's actually how I
Dr. Shahieda, sorry to interrupt you there. I'm hearing you. It's the line is decent, but I think we can actually have a better line on that. Let's see if we can reestablish that line with you. We're speaking to Dr. Shahieda Jansen, a clinical psychologist. We're exploring the complexities of financial abuse, the warning signs, and how to deal with it. This is part of our GBV focus that we've been having here as a part of the SABC initiative. Let's take a bit of a quick break and then we'll come back and see if we can sort out that line. We want to hear Dr. Shahieda a little bit more clearer there on that line.
Africa Update on Channel Africa with Lulu Kabu.
Mozambique's opposition leader Venancio Mondlane has been charged with incitement to terrorism and disobedience. He faces a total of 5 charges. The charges relate to post-election violence that left hundreds of people dead. What punishment is he looking at?
The most severe charges are 2. One is incitement for terrorism, and also is being charged for mobilizing people for terrorism during the protests. These charges are really serious and severe. If he is condemned, is found guilty, he could serve 10 years plus years in jail, meaning that he would be banned from political participation, mainly for the 2028 and 2029 electoral cycle.
The director of CDD, the Center for Democracy and Development, Adriano Novunga.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time. Are you fluent in French, Chinyanja, Portuguese, and Kiswahili? Are you passionate about radio? And are you looking to work in South Africa? Do you have papers that qualify you to work in South Africa? In that case, we might have an opportunity for you to work for Channel Africa. Send us your CV and demo at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Remember, if you don't hear from us within 14 days, it means you have not made it or you have not been selected. Channel Africa, the African perspective. 9 to 12 midday, Central African Time On the Move with Palesa and Benjamin Moshatama.
We're chatting to Dr. Shahieda Jansen, clinical psychologist, in today's gender-based violence focus conversation. And we're speaking about financial abuse. I hope that our line is better. Dr. Jansen, let's go even deeper into this conversation. Many a times we know we live in a very patriarchal society, and because of some of the societal norms and especially economic norms that are part of our world, we find that many women aren't in as good financial standing as many men are in our society. This is not to say that women are the only ones that experience financial abuse, but it's a huge contributing factor to the use of this abuse system, isn't it?
Yes, that is certainly the case, that I think too many women find themselves in situations where they are not just the dependent one, but perhaps also deliberately kept in that kind of dependent situation. So if one looks then at the definition of financial abuse, the word that stands out there is control. And so financial abuse or economic abuse is literally a form of control in which one person deliberately restricts and manipulates. I think that's the other word that stands out about financial abuse, so that they can exploit that person and manipulate access to the person's financial resources. And the purpose would then be to gain power over them. And so abuse is usually about gaining power over the person. And so in this instance, where physical abuse would be directed at the body to use violence, to gain power, and then specifically emotional, psychological abuse would be to attack the person's self-esteem and to undermine that person's sense of self-worth. When it comes to what makes financial abuse stands out, is that it really zooms in on the control of resources and the restriction of that person's independence. So I think I also just wanted to share how finance abuse overlaps, and it often occurs with other abuses. It's very seldom just the only abuse that is taking place. For example, physical, sexual abuse. And so when there's financial abuse, it means that person is unable to leave the abusive situation. And so it's important then to understand that the financial abuse takes place often in complex circumstances. And like you said earlier, it's also often very invisible, it is subtle. And think about it. Sometimes the person who is in control of the finances may use quite sophisticated means and not even resort, to threats at all. The person may state, I'm really operating in your best interest. When the person asks to see the bank statement, or they want some update about their finances, the person might say, man, you shouldn't be breaking your pretty head over those details. I'm taking care of all of that so that you can just enjoy yourself. And so you need to understand that sometimes it really operates in such a way that the person may even question their grip on reality. Because the way the manipulator actually performs or engages with them makes them wonder that maybe I'm just imagining myself.
Well, we need to take a break, Dr. Jansen. Very quick one. Stay on the line with us. It would be good to really understand what some of the common indicators of financial abuse are. And unlike, other forms of abuse, sexual and physical, many of us don't know if we can actually go to the police to report financial abuse as a form of abuse. So we'll go deeper into those conversations after this break.
Annika Lonji. sur Channel Africa.
Nous allons à présent dérouler notre tapis rouge pour accueillir notre personnalité du jour, l'artiste chanteur Sheki Frey, qui est en ligne de Guinée avec nous.
Je suis un artiste guinéen, un créateur, un styliste et je fais un peu ce qui plaît à mes fans. Voilà, c'est un peu ça. On a beaucoup de genres de trucs à faire, mais bon, pour le moment, on est basé un peu sur le rap.
D'accord. À quelle période de votre vie avez-vous commencé à vous intéresser à la musique, Sheki?
Bon, je crois pas qu'il y ait une période, parce que moi, je suis un mélomane depuis mon petit âge.
Annika Longi, tous les dimanches sur Mix Vibration.
Step into the heart of the day on the move with Palesa and Benjamin.
Hey, you are listening to Channel Africa, and we're continuing our GBV focus today, and we're speaking about this very serious issue. Maybe we sideline it at times, and we don't think it's as serious as other forms of abuses. We're speaking about financial abuse, which can be seen as invisible, and many people are affected by it in many relationships. To understand it, Dr. Shahieda Jansen is joining us, a clinical psychologist joining us on the line. You've highlighted such powerful areas of financial abuse, but many people don't see it as abuse. How can we notice the common signs or indicators that someone is actually going through this financial abuse, Doctor?
Okay, I think sometimes in quite a physical way, in the sense that you become aware and you can see that suddenly there are loans or credit cards or contracts that have been taken out without your consent that you don't know about. Or you may suddenly become aware that there are debts or a poor credit history that you don't know about, because you know that you pay, you service your debts quite well, but you're beginning to see this, all right? Or sometimes you are not even allowed to have your own card. You don't have your own PIN, or you are forced to share your own PIN or your online banking access. Another way in which financial abuse manifests is that you've got money, but you're constantly having to beg for your own money. And then even when you are given money, you're given the small allowances, right? And then once you use the money, you are subject to this regular, where you have to give updates, right? And there's this monitoring of your expenses.
Wow.
And sometimes even, certain things that must be paid, like, for example, your child care. And then you find yourself not being able to go to work because the child care, there's no person to look after the children because it hasn't been paid. So I think those are just, some of the ways that the person becomes aware, sometimes in a very physical way. But then also, when I see a person like this, one of the things that I explore with a person is I say, let's make a list of the way you feel in relation to your financial situation.
Okay.
And because, remember, emotions are information. And so when we begin to list, and I like to also project it, on a board so that the person can see. And the person might say, I feel scared to ask about my own money. I'm often made to feel guilty. I'm often made to feel that I'm gluttonous or I love money too much. Okay? I often feel that I'm wasting money, or I'm told that I'm wasteful about money. I also get to feel it's almost like I don't deserve spending the money that I've earned. And so when we then go through the list of the emotional experience that this person is having in this relationship, it then opens up a window into what is going on.
Yeah. Dr. Shahieda, I just want to ask you this question because in many married couples, there is a consensus on how money is being used. Usually, we even share each other's bank accounts, and it seems like, there is an openness in that type of relationship when it comes to money. And many a times people kind of draw the line where they can't use money or where they can't use the money. How do you know that this is an abusive thing? Because most of the time the conversations happen in a natural way and maybe there's no emotional abuse attached to it, but there's definitely a sense of limitations when it comes to the finances. How do you know that, this is not healthy?
I think when we started out, I said when it comes to financial abuse, for me, that there's two words that stand out. The one is control, and the other one is manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, sometimes you have couples where they're married, the husband is earning very well, and they decided that she's going to be the stay-at-home mom. Because for whatever reasons, right, they agreed to. In many of those cases, there will be an agreement that she either has free access or there's an allowance. And so I think what makes the difference here is when there's that freedom for her, that she has her own area of control when it comes to finances. She can make decisions. She can decide, I want to spend this money, I'm going to invest this, I want to study this, I want to, go and engage this courses for myself and so on. So that will give you a sense in terms of whether this is abusive or not. It's about that control. Because remember, for a human being, even for children, we all need an area, a sense of independence, of autonomy.
Yeah.
That is natural and fundamental to being a human being. And so when one partner uses money in order to make that person feel they no longer have autonomy, then immediately that would be regarded as a form of abuse.
Yeah. Dr. Jansen, if you are physically abused, you may have the scars to prove it. If you want justice, if you're ready to get the necessary help, go to the police station, etc. How do you prove financial abuse, and where do you even go for the necessary help?
So there's one organization here, in Cape Town, with the two branches they call Mosaic. And in this organization, it's an NGO. And I like to refer women, especially to that organization. Why? Because firstly, sometimes you need legal and financial education. And you need to be taught, how do you do the record keeping? How do you begin that process that is going to generate the evidence that you are being compromised here in the way the money is being dealt with? So firstly, I think there's definitely a need for education. Then what they also do, often, it's a multi-dimensional, it's a comprehensive strategy. So you may need assistance in all kinds of ways. Even sometimes some women then gets trained into how do you generate your own income, and then to be given access to a network of people, because often part of the financial abuse is also the isolation. And so what you can hear from what I'm saying is that because it's such a silent, hidden, and often it leaves no traces. So it's important that that person gets taught then how do you create the traces, how do you create the evidence. And so it really would require even maybe a more long-term empowerment process. But I just want to, before we end this conversation, there's one thing that I just want to broaden this conversation. There's often an assumption, that financial abuse is entirely domestic, in the domestic arena, and it's entirely a feminine experience. When you look at one of the things that is a problem in South Africa is the issue of low wages, that people are earning money that is far below what any human can need to sustain themselves. And so I think that if you look broader in the South African economy, there is a process where people, and particularly young black men, are undermined just in terms of the way the wage economy is structured. To underpay people or to not pay people a living wage. And so I think we also need to broaden this conversation, that it's not purely often just about a man undermining a woman financially or abusing her, but also how men themselves and women can be victims of an economy that is structured to actually control people financially, and that they're not able to actually live a decent life.
Well, thank you for that summary. It gives us even a broader context indeed. Thank you so much, Dr. Jansen. You always give us a sober and a very expert knowledge when it comes to these issues. Thank you for joining us here on Channel Africa.
Thank you. Okay.
That's Dr. Shahieda Jansen, a clinical psychologist. What do you think about that one? Complicated, isn't it? But it happens to many of us. Have you experienced a financial abuse, maybe from one of your partners, whether you're male or female? Tell us a little bit about your experience via voice note on +27 63406 9126. You can text us or voice note us or interact with us on our socials at Channel Africa 1, everywhere on the socials. Let's move on right now and get our sports.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.